You see in the back, you see
Teaser,
Interpol and
teaser.
stuff
Oh, I
like
love
that.
it, man.
But
Oh man, so you're a Mandalorian fan, are you?
yeah, as a matter of fact, but I got this cap from a guy called Brain Power, MC Brain Power. He's basically connected with the crew of Yellowman in Jamaica. He's a prodigy of Yellowman.
Whoa.
He's a hell of a rapper, by the way.
Yeah.
He's a friend of mine, and he gave me this one as a gift or something, you know. I'm gonna go to this other one. So can you see me yet? Right.
I can see you.
I have to do this one moment.
See you. And I can see a sexy picture in the background as well.
Can you see me?
I can. So
yeah,
we have Rude Boy Remington in the house. It's like, I'm not in your house, you're not in my house. It's crazy, isn't it?
What's up, people? How are you?
Absolutely, man. Fantastic. Absolutely love his stuff. It's awesome. So look, anyway, basically, dude, it's an absolute pleasure to be speaking to you now. And obviously, I got to give the credit to Ettore, and I got to give the Terry Sealer as well, because Terry Sealer is Ettore's a good friend, introduced me to Ettore. So I've got to give those guys the credit for making this happen. All right?
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure. Dude, I've seen so many videos.
Good.
When you've watched like loads of videos of a person, smashing the stage up. I've watched you in like so many videos over the years, just stuff, a deeper shade of soul. Man, and to see you now, to be seeing you, it's fantastic. The man.
Yeah, thanks so much.
A pleasure.
I'm still live. Basically, I'll still do the same, even worse. But
yeah.
Funny enough, because always lived in a particular way. I knew 30 years ago what I had to do to continue doing certain things, because as a physical performer, I had to, take care of certain things and keep it on like that. Now with the Corona days, it's kind of hard because, well, there are no performances and shows. So, and they shut down the gyms. So I have to find out certain things. But as soon as I will play again, I will be on that particular level where I will be a physical performer also. The singing is easy. It's especially if you combine them with physical performing and singing or rapping, it's going to be tougher. But then again, I know how to do it. So, I never drank, basically, in the sense that where other people would binge out, I wouldn't do that.
Oh, man, you missed out. You missed out on the rock and roll life.
Not really, because I did other things, but I'm not dwelling on that too much. That was back in the past. But, I wasn't a drinker nor a smoker. My crew, the band I was in, they were heavy on that stuff, especially, basically, the bass player and Silvano, and DNA, the DJ back then, they were diehard Chiba guys,
I hear you.
So, and that was no problem. It was normally I would ride shotgun in the bus because then I had the ability to open the windows when they were blowing out in the back. I insisted, actually, because
dude, seriously, come on, man, you can't complain. You're in Holland, and that's like the wonderland of Chiba.
I hear you, but not now anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, it used to be.
They try to cut back on the regulations, or should I say the freedom of certain things. I think it's pathetic, because even as a non-smoker, I feel that everybody has the right and the freedom to do so. I mean, come on, it's your life. I mean, everybody should do what they enjoy to do. If they enjoy it, they should do it to a certain extent. But it depends on what we're talking about. But in general, if somebody who likes to smoke should do it if he wants to. I have no complaints about it. Basically, only when I'm kind of get the flu, then I don't like it, because you can't breathe really. But
of course.
I have no problem. I'm open-minded about certain things, even though I'm not doing it. It would never was my thing, because I did other things instead of that. I just didn't like smoking. I don't know. My brothers, they all smoked. They all did the Chiba thing and the marijuana and stuff, Mary Jane. So, and I had no problems with that.
Well, don't worry, man. Seriously, they can be forgiven because they're in the rock star life, and that's the way it works. Unfortunately, you play hard, and you party hard and you work hard.
But let me put it this way. I'm not a straight jet type of guy. People think that I don't believe in that. The thing is, I'm a kind of sporty guy. Plus, I figured I was more a militaristic type of person because certain disciplines I enjoyed. And funny enough, that was my rock and roll thing, which means that if there was something going on in the crowd or the fight, I would understand that.
Yeah.
That's to me rock and roll. If somebody comes on stage and somebody's throwing something at you, you better take that the way it is, unless it becomes such a nuisance to a point where you feel like you want to hit them. That's rock and roll too. You know, back in the days in 75, 76,
that's the Sex Pistols. That's
punk rock era.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're right there. So you know how they were just spitting the goo on you and spitting the phlegm on people. That was like an element of punk rock. I believe in a certain way. I believe in the raunchiness of things. I believe in the loudness of things. I believe in the energy of things, which is to me rock and roll. And I believe it could be some semi-dangerous or flat out dangerous gathering where people want to hear sound and enjoy themselves. They might throw a bottle. I'm not sure. I don't get like squeamish for that. I will take that. That's to me rock and roll.
Wow.
Anything goes.
Yeah. Wow.
Really. That's my rock and roll mentality. Not slowing. I never was a smoker, but I believe in energy and aggression, like a form of controlled aggression.
I get it. It's like letting out. Yeah. And that's something I was going to ask you as well. I mean, obviously the angst in rap, that angst is very different to the angst in rock and roll. Can you hear me?
Exactly. Of what I consider the ultimate punk rock form of punk rock was to me rap back then, because they had a lot of things in common. If you would look to the United States and the punk rockers in England, they realized, especially the Clash, they realized that they had the same common enemy. They have the same environment. They have the same things that they would fight against or fight for. So when the Clash saw Fat Five Freddy and Future 2000, the Clash made Future 2000 the escapades of Future 2000. That proves it right there. That these two went together. Obviously, everybody knows Blondie meets, with Rapture and Fat Five Freddy and all these boys, but especially the Clash. To me, is one of the most, maybe the only band that matters. I'm a Beatles fan.
Yeah, the Clash.
I think that's the only band that matters, the Clash, because they were so open-minded. They fought against certain things. They fought for certain
anti-establishment,
things.
absolutely.
And they were musical. It's funny because back in the days, they thought that a particular band like the Clash should never have a contract with CBS, what's now Sony BMG. Wow. And later on, it happened to be something that they realized, like, one major wasn't the other. So when they were at CBS, they weren't really happy. And they made the Sandinista for the simple reason that CBS asked them for 5 records or something. And said, oh, really? You want 4 or 5 records? You know what? We make Sandinista. And the press in England, especially in England, thought it was a joke. But to me, I felt that was one of the best records ever. Wow. And later on, now in 2021, everybody, those who claim that it was just a bullshit record, now is on top of things and saying, yeah, that was a masterpiece. These things I do not like about people who are basically looking at what we consider good rock and roll music. That they will say, yeah, well, they sound like 5 different bands. Yeah. Well, you wish, I mean, the Clash was so eclectic that, I mean, they could do anything. And to a certain extent, and that was just awesome.
Well, I see that. So, Sissy,
was an underrated record.
Yeah, but no,
Oh,
see, Patrick, I see that in your music as
yeah,
well. You take a lot of elements and create
yeah.
something really special.
That's why I specifically
Hmm,
talked about a crash, because somehow we felt that anything goes. And
hmm,
as a youngster, I learned that from the Clash. I
hmm.
would became a, you know, even though I became a Rudeboy because of the new ska revival in England,
Okay.
and my flagship was the Specials. I
Hmm,
felt that the punk mentality and everything that went with it was something of open-mindedness. If it's good, it's good. And
hmm,
the funny thing is, there's a thin line between um doing something organically in a jam session
hmm,
and trying to focus deliberately on a particular
hmm,
influence. So
hmm,
let me explain this. If
hmm,
I Urban Dance Squad never was thinking, let's make a reggae tune.
hmm,
Never. If
hmm,
it happened, then it could be that we would dwell on
hmm.
it.
Yeah.
If it's the same with if you had a metal influences,
Hmm,
they are not thinking, let's make a metal record or
hmm,
song. They just did it.
hmm,
If we don't have that song, that's it.
hmm,
We don't
hmm,
do it.
hmm,
That's why I love about bands like that, that they naturally follow a particular impulse in themselves.
hmm,
And when they have a good idea, it's a good idea.
hmm,
And I admire the Clash for that, because you
hmm,
can tell that whatever record you take from the Clash, um, you feel that it's real.
hmm, hmm,
It's not like they deliberately look for an influence. It's just
hmm,
there. Like
hmm,
Guns of Brixton, like
hmm,
when they did that because of Paul Simon, he barely could, he just barely learned to play bass basically before that. As a matter
hmm.
of fact, when he used to play bass, he went straight to Joe Strummer, and Joe Strummer would tell him to chord while
Hmm.
they were in what public was watching. That's funny thing.
Well,
That's punk rock
my
to me,
brother,
but
I'm going to stop you there, okay? Because I've got to basically, right now, I've got to let people understand and know a bit about you, because you're the Urban Dance Squad and everything else. And obviously, that whole, to me, it's like, as I said to you, The Deepest Shade of Soul is a song that everybody remembers about your band, okay? So that's the Urban Dance Squad. Now you're doing lots of other stuff, and that's what we'll talk about, all the other projects
you
you've
want to
got.
know how that started? Deep
Yeah,
Shade of Soul.
yeah,
You
who were
want to
your
know?
influences? Hmm.
Listen, that's almost impossible to tell you, because then you have to check every member of the group. Let me give you an example. Silvano is short,
Hmm.
the bass
Hmm.
player with the dreads. He was always Miles Davis meets Rufus Thomas meets. He played for Rufus Thomas, by the way, too, even in the Urban Dance Squad days. Listening to Sly and the Family Stone, listening to Jimi Hendrix.
Hmm.
Then you have the guitar player. That's basically Robert Johnson, Jimi Hendrix, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Hmm.
and the drummer is basically a diehard Led Zeppelin fan meets James Brown. He loved James Brown. Um, the DJ loves James Brown, but anything that goes with funk, any new era type of rap back in the day that was on the, like the Justified Agents of Mew Mew,
Hmm.
they were basically the jams, and they were friends of DNA way before they became famous. So he used to get these records from these British guys, and he used to play them, and we just kind of mingled them with our own sounds.
Hmm.
Um, he was listening to Word and Mouth, DJ Cheese.
Hmm.
I am a Beatle fan meets a ska rocker like Rude Boy
Wow.
meets the Beatles, Rolling Stones, Dave Clark Five, anything that's 60s beat, from and to James Brown, Stevie Wonder, and there you have it.
Hmm.
And we didn't really like the industry. Each person had his raw, fucked up uh, past with the industry,
Hmm.
and we had a very natural, organic distrust
Hmm.
towards record labels in general. And that explains why in the first 2 years, like from '86 till '88, we didn't want to make records,
Hmm.
because we figured we don't want to make records. That people were asking and begging. And then in '88, we started to dick around with the idea to make a record. So in '89, 1990, we had '89, we had Metal Floss for the Globe. But that was the first time we finally decided to make a record.
Mm.
We didn't want to make records. From 86 to 87, 88, no way. No way.
Because the industry was that bad.
We didn't trust anyone.
But you were in Holland though, so where were you looking to get a record deal?
The first thing, when we started, we figured that we had a plan basically to finance this ourselves, because most of the times when you would go out and talk with these people, they were interested in the urban dance club, but when it came to budget, they just backed away somehow. So the conversation would be quiet when it came to budget, the budget that we asked. So we figured, fuck them, because it's just a cycle. Then we figured, okay, every time we perform, we put money away. And then suddenly, because life is strange, when you think you're on your own, there might be an ally that is powerful and money strong enough to put some effort in you. So this happens. There was a studio in Brussels called ICP, International Company Plastics, that was run by a guy called John Haystring. And this guy used to be a 60s guitar player and a rich kid. And his dad had this company back in Brussels. They were Americans. And his son asked his father to make a studio inside the record, inside the plastic company. Wow. in the and then he said, yeah, whatever. And he did, and became so famous that basically everybody came there. So he called us and he said, are you guys Americans? I said, no. So we told him. He said, are you guys signed? No. Then he said, what is your intention? What is your plan? Then we said, we want to make a record on our own. He said, how much money you have? Then we said 8,000 guilders. There was nothing back in. He started to laugh. Then he told us, listen, I believe so much in you people that if you come to my studio, you just make the record you want. After that, when you shop for a contract and a deal, give me everything, the cost back, pay that back, and I want 2 points of the record or something. Said, okay. So we did. And
that's a sweet deal. That's a sweet deal. That's a good deal.
So, but basically, you're 150,000 in debt. You know that, right? So actually, we're 150,000 in debt. Wow. But the thing was, as soon as we started to shop around, there were 9 or 10 of these labels that suddenly wanted to sign us.
Amazing.
But we said to ourselves, listen, this is what we want. This is what we need. You have to do this. And then we signed. And we signed. Back in the day, we did like a 50-page contract, which is basically nothing, because the thing is, no matter how tight you have your contract, it doesn't mean shit, because these people will fuck you around anyway. So, but the Urban Dance Club took it. It was Men of Flux for the Globe. It was, back in the day, what you consider Arista, Ariola, was the label that was the best for us at that moment. And let me explain something else about it. You see, if it was up to the Urban Dance Club and we had the opportunities that you have nowadays in 2021, we would never have signed with a major company, because then you have your own planet and we would go do it ourselves. But back in the day, we decided to do the major label thing for the simple reason that major companies were the only ones who had the best distribution. And the point with the Urban Dance Club was, they said, well, we need to at least make a record where we find that any potential candidate who loves our music could get that record. So whether you were in Tallahassee, that guy or kid must have the ability to get that record. Because listen, independents back in the day had nothing. So that was the only reason that the Urban Dance Club signed with a major label. But later on, we were like, yo, fuck them. I mean, we were fuck them, because major companies, we didn't know their real, how they would, even with that contract, how they would fuck us around. And obviously you will get fucked sooner or later, because it really doesn't matter. Major company people, they're different type of people, different breeds. But that's the whole thing. Otherwise, we would have signed with a.
Well, I'm glad. Well, all I can say is I'm glad that you did. And I want to ask you a question as well, because obviously you know, far as I'm concerned, you're mixed race, okay? Now, what was it like being mixed race in Holland? What was it like growing up in Holland, mixed race?
Well, I came alone on a plane when I'm 5 years old, but because my dad was in Holland before I came, for the simple reason that he was a computer. He got education for being a computer expert. My father's very brilliant back in the day, but he had no money. He was black. He came from Suriname, and he started to work and study at the same time in a cold world where he knew nobody. He cried most of the times, what I learned later, and then got me flown in alone from Suriname to Holland. Okay, growing up, I will leave that. Growing up in Holland, I basically had no problem, but obviously when you're colored, where I was in the countryside or in the cities, it was kind of okay. But you come to a point when you grow older that certain things you realize, you know, and certain things become your problem. The music I was listening to, what you weren't considered to listen to that when you were colored, because
exactly. That's what I'm trying to understand. I want to understand what got you. I wanted to understand what got you into rock music, because a lot of people associate rock music with the middle class.
Listen, my father was the best Suriname bass player in the best band in Suriname. He was famous there. And
that's
I saw my father when I was 3 years old. Yeah, that's South America, and that's used to be a Dutch colony.
Okay.
Next to British Guyana and stuff, and Paraguay, stuff like that. But the point is this: my father was a musician. He was a lead singer and a bass player. He had the same Hefner bass as Paul McCartney. He played rock and roll. He played own ska music. They used to have their own music, and doing things like Rolling Stones, Get Out of My Cloud, stuff like that.
Yeah. Get Out
so
of My
I had
Cloud.
a dad that would kind of influence me somehow, subconsciously. And I think I got it from there. And from that on, I just hung in. Like, my interest was into everything, and especially rock and roll, because the thing to me, when the British bands, when I got exposed to that sounds, even as a 5-year-old, that was the sound I want to dwell to, because I felt that the drums were so special, plus the melodies were so extremely heavy. To me, it was almost like a form of warfare. You know, I love the Who later on, and stuff like Dave Clark 5, and obviously the Who, the Rolling Stones. To me, that was normal, because my dad used to play with Wilson Pickett too, or Otis Redding. But funny enough, and that's the raw part basically, but I was always attracted by these British beat groups, you know, melodies.
No, I understand completely.
You know?
But you know what? Basically, you know what you're saying now is how I felt about hearing your new EP. You know that your EP, The Obscure. My God, I've been playing.
That's an old.
Yeah, the Phantom 4 and the Arguido. Yeah. So basically, for me, when I heard that EP, I was stunned, because for me, it kind of reminded me of, you know, when I first heard "Smells Like Teen Spirit." You know, how it started, you know, Kurt Cobain. It literally hit me like that. The first track on the album. I think what's it called again? What's the track called? What's the first track called again? Yeah, it's The Obscure. It's called The Obscure.
You mean on the Phantom 4?
Yeah, on the Phantom 4, Obscure. Basically, to say it's the title song. It's called The Obscure. That song hits you straight away. And what I find, obviously,
you're talking about the Obscure EP.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, and you've got the Yin Yang and Through as well. That track, the Yin Yang Through.
Yin and Yang Through.
Yin and Yang Through, and then you've got the Waiting as well.
Yeah, the Yin and Yang Through. Yeah.
And you've got the Waiting. Man, those tunes, they are so, they remind me, I got a lot of nostalgia from them. It reminded me of when I was a kid, you know, Nirvana, Radiohead, you know, a lot of those bands, Pixies, all of that was coming through. And seriously, it's incredibly fresh.
Let me tell you something about those tunes. something about those tunes.
Sometimes it's better when you walk away. Short time where you find you have a lot to say. No signs where you go, you're bound to stay. Your kind is the one they try to alienate. You'll find it's better when you start to pray. No lives they share when you fade away. Decline ways when the path is paved. No shrine helps you at the end of the day. Hail Mary, hail's a Peter. I think my mood swings like parking meters. Taking the life in front of cedars. I'm seeing too much, and I'm tired. I'm so tired. Hell, I'm tired.
Those tunes were basically mixed by Pelle from the Hives.
From the
You know
Hives.
the Hives?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Pelle, we asked him, he liked the songs, so he did part of their album for Sounds from the Obscure. That's the whole album, by the way, Sounds from the Obscure, because this was an EP, but he mixed those couple of records because he loved it. And I guess obviously that type of raunchiness came from his mix. And Life We Were Raw, when I used to play, when I still play with, because they are friends of mine. I'm kind of like a vocalist that comes every now and then when they make a vocal type of record.
Okay,
Because they are an instrument. They are an instrumental serve band. But the point is, they throw a lot of strange things. That's because of the mastermind called Phantom Frank. That bald guy. That's the main guitar player. He basically writes all the music. I'm writing the vocals and everything with the singing and stuff.
Well, the
and
vocals,
titles.
but the lyrics are fantastic. The lyrics are out there. That's the point. The lyrics are incredible.
That's me.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, that's insane.
Frank. Oh, thanks, man.
No,
Frank makes the tunes.
Trust me, dude. I know music, and I don't listen to everything. And when I hear stuff, it's very rarely that I get like the heart pumping. Like I've been in my car playing this stuff. I get out like today. My kids are playing it. My kids are going, Dad, I love the waiting. You know, you got the sitars in there as well. You got a lot of incredible sounds. You know, it just makes incredible. It literally, it's so now.
Is this true?
Yeah, it's so now, man. I want the world to hear this
man.
stuff.